Some stories are so unlikely they sound impossible, until you realize they're true. There are very few people who have survived a nuclear attack, and only one person in history who officially survived two. Imagine a man who, within the span of just 3 days, found himself at the center of the two most destructive explosions the world has ever known. Twice, he watched an entire city disappear in a blinding flash of light. Twice, he heard a sound that would change the course of the 20th century forever. This is the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, the man who survived both atomic bombings of Japan. Before we begin, if you enjoy thoughtful stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. The first bomb. On the morning of August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi had no idea that far above Hiroshima, history was already in motion. Thousands of kilometers away, on the small Pacific island of Tinian, an American B-29 Superfortress bomber had taken off hours earlier. Its name was Enola Gay. Inside its bomb bay was a weapon unlike anything the world had ever seen, a uranium bomb known as Little Boy. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb was released from an altitude of nearly 10 kilometers. It did not hit the ground. Instead, it detonated in mid-air, hundreds of meters above Hiroshima, chosen deliberately to maximize destruction. In an instant, the city below was engulfed in a blinding flash of white light, followed by a shockwave powerful enough to flatten buildings, tear steel apart, and erase entire neighborhoods. Yamaguchi was preparing to return home to Nagasaki, to his wife and his 6-month-old son, Katsutoshi. On the morning of August 6, 1945, Tsutomu and his two coworkers began the day like any other. They woke up at 7, had breakfast, and got ready for their final day of work before traveling home. It was a warm, calm morning. The sky above Hiroshima was perfectly clear. Just before boarding the bus, Tsutomu suddenly realized he had forgotten important documents that needed to be submitted to the personnel department at the end of the assignment. He returned to the dormitory to retrieve them and then headed toward the Mitsubishi shipyard on foot. At that moment, he was in the Iba district, about 3 kilometers from what would soon become the epicenter of the explosion. He then heard the sound of an aircraft overhead. Looking up, he noticed 2 bright objects slowly descending from the sky. Moments later, the world was consumed by an intense white flash. A massive explosion tore through the air, and in an instant the shockwave lifted him off the ground. Buildings, trees, streetcars, and cars were swept away as if they weighed nothing. His final conscious thoughts were of his wife and child. He lost consciousness. When Tsutomu woke up, he found himself lying in a potato field about 20 meters away. He couldn't hear anything. Above Hiroshima rose a massive, rapidly expanding mushroom-shaped cloud, shimmering with strange colors, like something out of a kaleidoscope. He assumed it was a cloud of poisonous gas. The idea that he had just witnessed an atomic bomb never crossed his mind. Darkness quickly fell over the city. His entire body was in pain, especially his left ear, which had nearly stopped working. When he touched his head and face, he realized his hair was gone. His skin was badly burned, and smoke was rising from his shoulder. His wristwatch, which might have told him the time, had been crushed in the blast. Struggling to his feet, he began moving forward. Black, radioactive rain started to fall. People ran past him screaming in panic. Many were burning alive, their skin peeling away from their bodies. Others lay on the ground, crying out for water. Tsutomu sat on a bench next to 2 injured students. Only then did he realize how badly his face was damaged. They tried to ease his burns by applying palm oil. It became clear that while he lay unconscious, intense radiation had struck the entire left side of his body. Hiroshima was swallowed by darkness, and the only answer to what had happened was fire. Flames shooting high above rooftops in every direction. Yamaguchi decided to make his way to his workplace to see if his colleagues had survived. Along the way, he noticed something deeply unsettling. There was no police, no military, no emergency services anywhere in the city. Just hours earlier, the sky had been blue, cicadas singing like on any summer morning. Now, everything was gone. The city was burning, and the sound of collapsing structures and roaring flames echoed like gunfire. To Tsutomu, it was hell, the only word that could describe what he saw. the second bomb. 3 days later, history repeated itself. Once again, a B-29 lifted off from the same island of Tinian. This time, the aircraft was called Boxcar, and the weapon it carried was Fat Man, a plutonium bomb even more powerful than the one dropped on Hiroshima. Its primary target was the city of Kokura, but heavy clouds and smoke made visual identification impossible. With fuel running low and time running out, the crew diverted to their secondary target. That target was Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m. on August 9, 1945, Fat Man detonated above the city, turning large parts of Nagasaki into ruins within seconds. At that very moment, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was already back home. The day after the bombing of Hiroshima, wrapped in bandages and still in shock, he had boarded a train bound for Nagasaki. Along the way, he saw rivers filled with floating bodies, an image that would haunt him for years. When he finally reached his family's home, no one recognized him at first. There was no time to rest. Neighbors kept coming, one after another, desperate to hear about the mysterious new weapon that had destroyed Hiroshima. Despite severe pain, fever, and extensive burns, Tsutomu decided the next morning that he had to return to work, if only to report on his assignment and see his coworkers after months apart. His wife begged him to stay home, but eventually gave in. At the office, no one recognized him beneath the layers of bandages. When he began describing what he had seen in Hiroshima, his supervisor dismissed it as impossible. Then, without warning, the room was flooded with a blinding white light. Instinctively, Tsutomu threw himself under a desk. A split second later, a massive shockwave slammed into the building. Tools, documents, and shards of glass were hurled through the air as the structure trembled around them. When he ran outside, Nagasaki was already engulfed in flames. His bandages had burned away, leaving open wounds coated in dark ash. His skin was raw, bright red, and exposed. Above the city rose a familiar mushroom-shaped cloud, the same nightmare unfolding again. By 11:02 a.m., Nagasaki lay in ruins. To his overwhelming relief, his wife and child were alive. Standing amid the devastation, Tsutomu grasped the unbearable absurdity of it all. He had survived Hiroshima, and just 3 days later, hundreds of kilometers away, found himself at the center of a second atomic explosion. What struck him most was the silence. No soldiers, no police, no rescue services. The people had been left completely on their own. On August 15th, the Japanese emperor announced the nation's surrender. Across the country, people wept over the defeat. Tsutomu felt something different. He believed the war was finally over, and that peace might finally follow. But the effects of radiation soon began to appear, slowly and relentlessly destroying his health. In 2009, he publicly revealed that he was battling stomach cancer. Tsutomu Yamaguchi died on January 4th, 2010, at the age of 93. Before his death, filmmaker James Cameron and writer Charles Pellegrino visited him, reportedly discussing a possible film about his life. Tsutomu Yamaguchi remains the only person officially recognized as a double hibakusha, a survivor of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is likely that others shared his fate, but his story stands alone as a reminder of what nuclear weapons truly mean and why their use must never be repeated. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, a like and subscription really help.